All right, we have another model amplifier from the arcade game pickup place. This one looks similar to, but is different from a model that we recently scrapped. So, whereas the other one had like a V-shaped thing going on here, this one's going straight back. So it might be, yeah, a little bit different. Well, we're not going to know by talking. Let's dive in and scrap it. When I see these and I know it's an amplifier, that's telling me there's probably a great big old toroid right there. And wow, that bolt's kind of loose. So I don't know what that's all about. I didn't start scrapping this. This is my number 2 Phillips. And these are loose. Interesting. I wonder if, so, you know, I know that the guy that I get these from is their maintenance repair technical guy. So I wonder if he had started working on this and just decided that he couldn't repair it. Because otherwise, why would I end up with it? The 2 might be a little big, but I found that sometimes the 2 works on these older screws better than putting the number 1 in there and then stripping out the number 1 blade or bit. Sometimes. And then there's those times. That was just a really tough screw. There we go. Now, go along the back side. Oh, one of the clamps came off. Got to dig that out of there. I think that happened the last time I did one of these too. Yeah, we're going to have to switch to the number 1 bit for some of these. They're just too small. Alrighty then, let's see now. We had a couple here that we unscrewed, but they didn't come out. Yeah, what's your situation? Might be a nut because it's turning, but man, these came out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Get you guys out of the way. Now. Oh, okay. Well. So you may recall on another one of these Peavey amplifiers that we scrapped out, the heat sinks were in a diagonal and they had 1 fan. So here we've got I don't know if this is an earlier or a later model. I could check the dates and confirm it, but I guess at some point they decided, hey, we can go to 1 fan if we make sort of a pyramid and suck the air through, you know, have 1 fan sucking the air all the way through. So this model, whether this came before or after, they've just gone with, they had 2 fans going over the heat sinks. But otherwise, we have 2 identical panels and the big old toroid. So let's go ahead and get this taken apart. We know we've got some really nice heat sinks They had some really good weight to those heat sinks before, so that's cool. The wire, these are pretty old. This wire feels a tad bit brittle. Yeah, we'll just cut that so we can get that wire out of the way. It's interesting that they use paper for to direct the airflow. Now we're down in here looking for screws. Okay. Now, sometimes we have found that we have to make sure the screws are all the way out of the holes, because sometimes you have to shift the board off of a peg. Like that. And then once it's shifted off of that peg, then it can come out. But we have a lot of wire that is still on here, and that's going to hold it up. So let's get the wire disconnected. And we got that switch in the way. Let's see what we gotta do about that switch. Sometimes you need to get in there with the hand screwdriver just to get things to get the right, you got to push just enough, and sometimes your drivers don't want to play. They just don't give you the right feel for that. So, all right, now, let me get this board out of here. Drop something else down there. I'm gonna have to check my bins, see what I dropped in my bins. So, this board is a mirror image of this board. So this would have been some sort of 2-channel system. And this is a nice big old heatsink. So let me show you how that comes out. I love this DeWalt bit set. It's got sockets, and the most common sockets in English and metric that I use, plus an assortment of bits. It has the hand driver that can be very useful as well for one-off kind of things. But in this case, we've got a number of these. These are 9/32. They just unscrew real easy. Give you another angle. And then we have screws on the bottom of the board. So we go back to our #1 Phillips here. And of course, the Phillips head the screws are black on a black board. So that always makes it fun. Not sure what this is, but it's a screw, so let's get it while we're here. Oh, it's another heatsink. I can feel it with my fingers. All right, now the heatsink comes right off, and these brackets that were holding the MOSFETs, they just slide down that channel. And we make sure we've got all the screws out of here. Come on, you. There we go. So now that's a real nice, big, chunky aluminum heatsink, extruded aluminum. My yard pays me really well for these, and that's some good weight there. These are probably stainless steel. Yep. So we'll separate all of these for the stainless steel, good, clean stainless steel. And on this board, we look at it, we've got a nice copper coil here. So let's go ahead and get that.
Hello.
Hey there, I'll be right with you. Sorry.
No, you're good.
All right, so we have a nice little chunk of number 2 copper right there. And I can tell from the cut that that's copper, but let me do this. Sometimes when the wire is off color, you want to make sure that it's copper. Either look at the end that you cut or give it a scrape with a file and make sure that it's make sure that it's copper and not aluminum. That's definitely copper. Now the rest of this board, we have another heatsink bracket here and here that we'll get off. Those are stainless again. And then we have these older resistors. There's some folks that have, here, let me show you these older resistors here. There are folks that have shown that there's gold plating in some of these. I have yet to find it. I don't doubt them. I just haven't found any yet. So if you want to go for those, go for it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sell this board as a low-grade board. That heatsink, we'll pull that off. We'll get the MOSFET off of that one. And then we have a little IC chip up here. And we'll get you off. There we go. Put that in with my IC chips. And this is now a low-grade board for my local yard. Very similar to a board that we recently took off from another Peavey. So these were probably just very close model numbers, and they made some modifications to it, mainly the path of the air for the heat transfer. And we've got to get the bolt out of the other side now for this toroid. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at the toroid. These are copper wires going in, so it's probably all copper. But I like to check. My yard gives me my non-ferrous yard gives me a lot of trust. So I always like to make sure that when I sell them something as a copper bearing motor, that it is in fact a copper bearing motor and not aluminum windings, which would get sold as breakage. That's copper, so we will get that off of there. And then we have another low-grade board here, which should come out pretty quickly here. Come over there. All right, so once we get the wire off of here, which will be number 2 insulated, we're left with a low-grade board, and you can bust off aluminum heatsink and some more aluminum heat sinks. In this case, they're screwed to the bottom. And that long one is soldered in, but these should come off pretty easily here now. We just break the prongs for the MOSFETs. So we'll take those MOSFETs off. You can see how dirty these are. I'm thinking that's not heat. I think that's smoke. This was an arcade, so I bet you they were smoking in the arcade, because that's still allowed here in Florida in some places. So I think that's smoke buildup, not heat buildup. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know, could be wrong. Could be wrong because the other one did not. Look at this. So that one has what I thought was the smoke buildup on it, but this one does not. So maybe that was just heat buildup on that, but that's kind of weird. I would have thought if it was heat buildup, it would have been on the side that the MOSFET was on. And we'll get these wires off of here. My yard allows me to leave the connector ends on for my number 2 insulated. Many yards want you to cut that off. So make sure you know how your yard wants you to handle the insulated copper wire and the connector ends. I'm on you. There we go. All right, so these caps, they're probably aluminum shells, but I don't mess with that. I just leave this in as a power board. We've got the aluminum heat sink over here. And we can probably bust that off and then take the FETs off of there to sell that as sheet aluminum. And then a lot of people like to go after these solenoid switches because there's usually some copper windings, sometimes either a silver or a gold connector in there. Again, I don't usually mess with that. I just sell it as a low-grade board, and this one has some fuses on it, so I don't know, maybe I'll pop those off and send those to my friend who will not be named Ian Matthews on the other side of the pond. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. If you recently saw my other breakdown of the similar model Peavey, then you kind of know how the rest of this goes. Low-grade board here, brass risers and connectors. The toroid comes off. This board is identical to the last one. There's a link over here taking you to that video so that you can see that. I'm not going to waste your time showing all of that with this because this is essentially the same kind of thing, just configured a little bit differently. And if you're not interested in that video, there's another link to take you to yet another Shark Scrapper video, and the round one in the middle, that's to help you to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of shark strapping goodness. Have a great day, everybody.